Welcome to Vendetta Sports Media. This is Eight Sided Freaks, and today we have we're in the middle of two fight night cards. Last week's card was a solid fight card, UFC Abu Dhabi, and then next week we have UFC Vegas 108. The Abu Dhabi fight card had some big fights on it, but it didn't necessarily deliver tremendous results or a lot to talk about. And next week's fight card is quite poor, and we had a pullout in the main event. So what we're going to do is we usually do the final thought sections when we recap and preview these fight cards. We're going to hit a quick recap and preview for both of those cards. We won't go too in depth on any of the fights in specific. And then after that, we're going to hit the only piece of fight news that we have, which is going to be Carlos Ulberg and Dominick Reyes. So we'll talk about that. And then we're going to roll into some fight bookings. For those of you who watched a couple weeks ago, Jerry and I did a fight bookings for UFC champions. Today, we're going to do kind of like a part two of that with all of us. And we're going to extend it to fights we want to see in the division period. So, that will be the plan for today. And then next week, we'll probably end up doing something similar where we do quick discussions to start the card, and then we'll find a topic. We have one in mind. I won't spoil it just in case we have news that puts it on the back burner. So that is the plan for today and a little bit of the plan next week until we get into some bigger cards and such. So we will start right at UFC Abu Dhabi. The main event and co-main event were the real highlights here. Anthony, we can throw it over to you first. Looking at this card, what was a fight that stood out to you, or even something that maybe a matchup for after a fight, or anything you can think of from UFC Abu Dhabi? The floor is yours.
Well, I mean, I'll just start with the main event. I still thought it was a relatively entertaining fight besides how gassed the two fighters got. Of course, I was a bit butthurt because it's like Whitaker try not to get robbed challenge level impossible. Even though I thought that could have gone both ways. I had no problem with that. I just think in as much as for Whitaker to win that fight, he had to be more active in the fourth and fifth, the fifth specifically. Although it was basically just DeRitter shoots takedown, Whitaker stuffs it, DeRitter works him to the fence with like trying to not do anything. Whitaker gets off the fence, and then DeRitter shoots takedowns. It's like as much as I wanted Whitaker to do more, he was doing what he had to do by stopping the takedown and getting off the fence. He just didn't have time to open up, and I just think it's interesting that that's like considered a win for the aggressor because of control time when his two goals are one to get the takedown and two to keep them on the fence, and the person defending gets away from both of those things, but yet it's seen as like him losing the round, which is a overarching theme with control time and such in UFC that is not my favorite. Um, but overall, I think uh, Whitaker, you know, was looking good. Obviously, was getting obliterated by the body knees that RDR is throwing. That he is just seeming to land on everyone at this point. But the ground game was kind of a wash. There was a time there where Whitaker dropped him. That was probably his best chance to win that fight right there. There was a glove grab a little bit too, but regardless, then it got to 4-5, and I just think if anything, it did show RDR is capable of fighting the top end talent. I think of the division and stuff. Even though he wouldn't blow me away, but I think more than anything, it's just a reflection on not necessarily that I want Whitaker. Obviously, the title runs over. Like, there's not going to be one last one. And while I don't want I'm open to the fact of him retiring, I still think he could maybe get one more fun fight in there against not a like upcoming prospect or anything too. But it was because I just couldn't help but sit there like RDR struggled with maybe the worst version of Whitaker, and I don't think that fight's close a couple of years ago or prime, obviously. But once you start talking like that, that means you should. It's the career should probably be coming to a close. I wouldn't mind hopefully getting one more fight out of Bobby Knuckles, one more fun one. But definitely the gas tank, the damage, even the speed, everything is definitely on the decline. But and I will say I'm interested to see RDR, how people can react with his size and his physicality. And I mean, if he's gonna just drain people with knees to the body, and they're gonna be a shell of himself in the 4th or 5th round, I think it makes him competitive. And everyone, he just also needs to work on his cardio too to fully capitalize on that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bounce off that. Like, you go 2 for 15 on takedowns against, and nothing against Bobby Knuckles, but he's a stand-up guy. He's been in this game for a long time. We know he has strong takedown defense, but if your whole game plan is to take someone down and you can only do it 2 out of 15 times, and sure, you kept him down for a little bit, but like, that's definitely a gaping hole for a guy that's known as a wrestler. And the way he fought against Bo Nickel, who's an elite wrestler, like, it looked like night and day a little bit. And that's obviously the step up in competition, and fair play to him for doing what he had to do to get that decision win. And fair play on Bobby Knuckles as well for at least getting that knockdown and making it interesting. Because otherwise, outside of that, it very well could have been a like 3-1 fight score or scorecard at the end of the 4th. But entertaining fight. Piotr Jan, I didn't see much of that, but it looked like, I mean, as you said, James, earlier, it looked like Marcus McGee won the 1st round and then kind of gassed out a bit. Wouldn't say gassed necessarily, but Piotr Jan, we know he's a late round fighter. He always seems to have been. He always starts slow and then finishes strong. And then the other one I want to throw out there, just as like that impressed me, Stephen Nguyen. Holy cow, he put on a damn good performance against Muhammad Yahya. 6 knockdowns. That dude's eye was so swollen shut, they had to stop it at the end of the 2nd. So, and I believe 6 knockdowns was a UFC record, at least in the featherweight division, or was it just a UFC record in general?
UFC record, and they didn't count one. You should have had another one.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that one was a slip. It's like, no, that guy's getting beat the fuck out of.
Yeah. So that was a damn good, impressive performance. And the other one, I'm sure one of you guys might mention it, but Muslim Salikov gets another disgusting 1st round finish. Beautiful knockout 42 seconds into the fight. Deserving of the performance of the night bonus.
Yeah, I've kind of got things to say on a lot of these fights, so I'll start with the main event and kind of work my way down. When I look at Whitaker and where he's currently at, and I'll start there because I think there's a little bit more to what the point he's at right now. Whitaker is still very, very, very skilled, and a lot of, like you said, Anthony, a lot of his issues come from a physical perspective. That's where we're seeing the drop. And it's tough because he was at one point in time was a welterweight, moves up to middleweight, and finds a new level. But one consistent thing for Whitaker is that he has never been the biggest welterweight or middleweight by any means. And then he's got to go in there in his prime, and he has 2 absolute scraps with Yoel Romero. And it's like, for a guy who's smaller, not immediately, but when he's at his prime, have to go in there with Yoel, who's also at his MMA prime twice, fight tooth and nail in both those matchups. 2 great wins for Whitaker as well. And that just takes a toll on the body. And now we're nearly a decade after that, maybe not quite 7 years after those performances, and it's just really hard to stick at that level of physicality. And he probably could still get wins at the skill level that these guys are operating at, but this weight class is currently huge in between Duplessis, Chimaev, RDR, all 3 guys he fought. Like, whenever you're looking at what those guys do, like, their physical ability and physical strength is all at the top of, their strengths. And I think those are all hard matchups for him. And I think he could still win fights at this level against guys like a Sean Strickland, for example. I wonder what a Nasruddin Imavov matchup would be. Imavov is really fast and a great striker, and maybe he could do what he did to Adesanya, where he's able to land hard enough to really hurt the guy who's a little bit older. But point being, I still think he can compete at a really high level. Now, how long is that going to last for? A year, 2 years? How many fights can you get in before that really starts to dip a lot further? That's a pretty big question, but I think right now I don't think Whitaker is too washed. I just think he's been fighting a prime examples of guys that could give him a lot of issues at this stage in his career. A simpler way to phrase it would be like if we found a guy whose chin was struggling and we gave him the hardest hitters in the division. That's what we're doing with Whitaker, but it's not just a chin thing. It's a full-on physicality thing.
And that's why, too, he's already done enough in this sport. He was champion. He cleared out a lot of the division. Obviously, some years have changed, so there's some new up-and-coming people in those rankings. But, that's why I think there's no – like when DC said, I'm not interested in fighting for anything but titles, so I think I'm going to hang it up. I don't know if that path is even there to get the title anymore at this point, and I don't think so. So that's why I think it should be maybe one more fight and just be done. But not yet. But to your point, not that I can't think, or not that I don't think he won't win these fights or certain fights, because the last thing too, at first I was like, okay, so his speed, he's struggling. I was like, okay, maybe because let's change divisions, maybe. And I was like, is he skilled enough? Does he still have enough skill to change divisions? I was like, okay, we can go up. And then I was like, wait, never mind. That is the worst idea possible ever. And then I was like, okay, he could go down to welter. And I was like, I don't know if I'd want to go down to welter right now. That division is scary. So I was like, I don't know, Bobby. It just might be curtain call, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's just the way these divisions are. And I mean, you mentioned like there's no way he goes up to light heavyweight. That division's too big for him. You guys have already talked about how he's even a little small for this division at middleweight. What do you want to see from him next? Like, I'm curious, because I don't really know what I want to see for Bobby Knuckles next.
I would say Sean Strickland, but I want to also see, is he fight Sean Strickland next?
Yeah.
And Sean Strickland's doing everything but fighting right now, and he got suspended indefinitely by the I don't remember which athletic commission it was.
I think it was the Nevada State.
Nevada State. That makes sense considering they're
sure
the biggest ones. And
yeah.
But yeah, so outside of that, I think Izzy and Whitaker are in really tough spots because those two can't fight. But they both probably would like a fight against Strickland, I'd imagine. So it's kind of a tough little scenario you find yourself in. So I don't really have a good answer for that question.
Yeah. I also want to see him Strickland. I was hoping that fight would materialize when Strickland was champ because I thought that was going to be a win. I think Whitaker still beats Sean Strickland.
I agree.
But to James' point, I do want to see Adesanya get that back. That was such a unfortunate loss, blemish on the record. I would like to see Izzy get that fight back against Strickland. I guess the last thing I'll say, if you bring up Imavov, throw Whitaker in there, and maybe if he wins, he can be #1 contender after. But besides that, it's so tough for these two because they've beat all their peers, like all the older fighters. And they're just too old now you can't keep running them into all the young guys. They're not going to be able to put 2 together or 3 together like they were when they were in their prime. So yeah, it's a bad spot.
Yeah, I mean the one that I kind of think would be okay. I mean, I don't want to see it, but mostly because I think Bobby Knuckles would lose. But him fight the loser because we have Imavov and Kyle Borrallo as the main event for UFC Paris, whenever that is. I think in September. So have him fight the loser of that maybe. But even then, I'm like, do I really want to see Bobby Knuckles go and fight? See Imavov wins. Do I want to see him go fight Kyle Borrallo?
Not really.
No. I wouldn't mind. I mean, I know they won't do it, but I wouldn't mind another fight with Izzy. That would just be fun. And then the winner gets Sean Strickland.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Another thing I could kind of see happening is that I don't really know how I feel. It doesn't quite feel right. Maybe Whitaker versus Brendan Allen. Considering Allen's been kind of rising and just got that win over Vittori, or you've got Anthony Hernandez and Roman Dolce, and maybe the winner of that would go into a Whitaker spot. Those are 2 logical ones that I kind of don't even know how I feel, but I think those are 2 that may. I'll just say if those fights get booked, I wouldn't be surprised. I should word it like that.
No.
I think Whitaker Allen fight would actually be pretty fine to check for sure where Whitaker's at right now.
Yeah, if he loses to Brendan Allen.
That's what yeah.
And it's also one to check where Brendan Allen's at because he just got the biggest win of his career over Marvin Vettori.
If
Yeah.
you want to talk about washed.
That's what I mean. Like, because Brendan Allen had this whole streak of like, okay, he looks really good. Maybe he'll be a future contender or something, and then it hasn't quite like gone his way at times. And I was like, okay, we'll put him up against Bobby Knuckles, see what happens, see where his level is actually at. Can he actually compete with the best of the best in this division?
Mm-hmm. And then on the RDR side, is RDR next for the belt, or is the winner of that Baralho and Imavov matchup next for the belt? Which of those? Regardless, I don't think it makes a difference. Honestly, if Duplessis or Chimaev walks away with the belt, I don't think we're going to be getting a rematch there, barring something going awry, a draw, point
Highway
deduction,
robbery,
something crazy that would warrant a rematch. So, which would you slate higher for being the number one contender?
I think the Imavov Baralho pretty certainly, especially Imavov. I feel like he has a little bit more of the higher wins. I guess they both beat Cannonier too, but he had Izzy, obviously. I don't know. I just think if Whitaker won that fight, no one was sitting there saying Whitaker was like for sure getting a title shot. If anything, I thought it was he has to win this and one more. So I think RDR winning that fight, it would be weird if he's instantly propelled to the title shot. I just think that would be a little bit I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that would make as much sense because I don't think Whitaker was jumping Imavov if Imavov wins.
No, that's fair. I mean, I think if Imavov beats Baralho, Imavov gets a title shot next one. I think he has to at that point. There's not much more he can do at this point in the division. But if Baralho wins, I honestly wouldn't, because I mean, he doesn't have that Izzy win. His 3 wins as of late were Magomedov by decision, beat Paul Craig, who is ancient, and then beat Jerry Cannonier in decision, who is also ancient. So I don't think he necessarily has that marquee win. And sure, a win over the number one guy in Imavov would be a pretty solid win. But I think if Baralho wins, him and RDR should fight for the next shot. But if Imavov wins, he deserves the next one.
Yeah, similar thoughts to you guys. The only place I would differ is if Baralho wins, I'd be fine with him getting that title shot.
Yeah.
And if Imavov wins, I think there's no debate considering he's got that Adesanya win. You could have made an argument if Chimaev wasn't there, he should have got it off the Adesanya win, but Chimaev jumps in line. I see how we got to that point. I'd like to see RDR fight the loser of Duplessis and Chimaev.
That's fair.
But the alternative counterpoint to that is what happens if Chimaev loses? Does he sit out for does it take a year before we see him again? Then it makes a little bit less sense for De Ritter. So that kind of hinges on those other guys. So that might not work as well as I would like it to.
I'm going to throw one other one out there for RDR just because we don't know what's happening with Sean Strickland. And there's all the talks of the Izzy and Sean Strickland rematch. What about Izzy and RDR? If that whole Sean Strickland thing is an issue for a long time, which could be, but
I don't mind that.
mean, I guess
I don't mind that.
I wouldn't. It feels a little not weird, but from Izzy's perspective, if he's not trying to be the champ anymore, like how much sense does that make for him? Conversely, if he is, makes a lot of sense to go get the win over that guy. So I see that. Even if I do prefer the Strickland fight, but as you let off with, if it's not the Strickland fight, we're now going, well, now what the hell? Because now you're entering Brendan Allen's and Delitzes and Fluffy Hernandez's, and if you fight one of those guys, you might as well fight RDR with a bigger reward on the line.
I agree.
It's tough watching like Izzy and Whitaker just get matched up back to back with people, and I'm like, it's like they were so good for so long, and now every matchup you do, I'm just like, oh, they might lose again.
And I mean, seeing Robert Whitaker ranked number 7 is just sad and crazy to see because, God, the last time he wasn't ranked inside the top 3, it was probably 10 years ago, something like that. Couldn't tell you.
I couldn't tell you either. I'll hit some more. I'll do some quick final thoughts on the rest of these from some of the things I saw. I'm not going to go too in depth on any of these, but just kind of going down the card. Piotr Yan did a decent job in there. I don't think it was the best Piotr Yan performance of all time, but I think he showed he was clearly better than Marcus McGee. And title shot next, winner of Sandhagen Marab, perfectly fine with me. Sharon Magomedov, he's a fraud and kind of tired of seeing this guy hanging around. And then Bryce Mitchell made his bantamweight debut. He gets a win over Said Nurmagomedov. I don't think he's, in or out to be a bantamweight champion, and I don't think he reacts very well to being hit after fighting Topuria and Josh Emmett back to back. That's kind of a rough run of damage being taken from heavy hitters. And after those two fights, I don't think he manages getting hit too well. But he clearly still has some grappling in him. And so I'm interested to see what he can do at 135. Getting a win over Saeed isn't the worst thing of all time. I think it'd be funny if he fought Vinicius Oliveira. Doesn't really make much sense, but it'd be funny at a pure minimum. And then that's obviously the Salikov KO was great. And there were some other positives, but the Bogdan Guzgov, really nice KO as well. So those were some of the other things that stuck out to me before we move on from UFC Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I do want to just put one more out there. Tabitha Ritchie looked really good against Amanda Hebos, especially after how she struggled against Yan Xiaonan in her last fight out. Good improvement, and I think this is the way she did, because that was such a big jump up going and fighting Yan, who has fought for the belt before. And I think this is a good way for Ritchie to kind of move up the rankings. She already moved up 3 spots from that, up from 10 to 7. And it also brings in like some new blood to this division a bit, which is kind of nice to see after Zhang Weili has just walked through everyone.
Yeah, Ritchie KO at plus 1,800 was the bet of the century. So
yeah, crazy.
All right, moving on from UFC Abu Dhabi to the, dare I say, star-studded UFC Vegas.
What do you mean? We got Neil Magny.
Yeah.
I wasn't being sarcastic, so. This card is pretty bad. The original main event was set to be Tetsuro Taira versus Amir Albazi. Not the greatest main event you've ever seen, but there's at least a level of interest and guys who have been touted as prospects and what can they do, yada, yada, yada. Amir Albazi not medically cleared to fight, so he will not fight. Hyung Sung Park will be the man to fight Tetsuro Taira. He's 3-0 in the UFC, and it's a pretty massive step up in competition, and it's not an easy fight for him at all. There are some Dana White Contender Series fighters on this card. I think there actually could be some fun fights, but it's nothing that, this matchup is so important. This is a ranked matchup. It's a lot of, unranked guys in this weight class. Dana White Contender Series signee here. And it's more of a matchup-based card than something that is filled with important fights, if that makes sense. So, Jerry, you can lead us off here. What, if anything, stands out to you on UFC Vegas 108?
I mean, the 2 fights that I'm looking at that I think will be very entertaining both contain an Argentinian. The co-main, or I guess not the co-main event, but Esteban Ribovic and Elvis Brenner. Ribovic was part of that fight, was one half of that fight with Zell Huber last year that was arguably fight of the year. I think it may have won UFC's fight of the year, did it? Outside of, oh no, it was probably Max, wasn't it?
But, that would make sense too.
Anyway, the Zell Huber and Ribovic fight last year was awesome. Ribovic puts on a very entertaining performance, so I'm hoping to see another one of those. And then Danny Silva taking on Kevin Vallejos. Vallejos is 15-1, so I'm curious to see how he does opening up the main card. And I think it could be a fun fight. I feel like he has had some good performances. He's 11 knockouts, 2 submissions out of 15 wins. So looks for the finish, and I don't know too much about Danny Silva, but otherwise, the prelims are brutal, I will say. There's not too much I find thrilling on there, but I'll still watch.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know we lost the Azamat Bukoev dude. I've been seeing that's the one that like trolls, right? And gets pretty.
Yeah,
He's pretty funny. He's not even a troll.
Oh,
He's just
yeah.
like pretty funny on the internet too.
good Twitter guy.
Yeah. So, because that's what first because I knew about that first before I started seeing him really pop off fighting. I think. And then we lost Andre Lima too, so that's another kind of hit, which is unfortunate. But I agree with the Rebovic's pick. That should be a fun one because even his last fight against Hack Prest or whatever was a pretty high volume, fun one as well. Then the one I'll say, I guess, is that Chris Duncan versus Rebecca, because that Chris Duncan in that last one, I think it was I don't know if it was in England or something, but when he fought Jordan Vucenic or whatever, ended up being a pretty fun fight, back and forth, a lot of striking, or some striking mixed with some interesting takedown decisions and stuff in that one. But Chris Duncan at least impressed me in that last one, I think as an underdog. So I'm excited to see this one. And then Rebecca was coming off that. I can't fully remember, but I thought people saw it was pretty entertaining against Orobai in his last one. So, we'll see. Oh, that one was catchweight too, though. But overall, yeah, for what we have here, I don't think if Albazi didn't pull out, I think at least these top 3 fights, you could have been like, okay, I get it on a fight night. But definitely these two lose their luster a little bit when you have a last-second replacement in the main event. So,
yeah, I do want to ask before you go, James. Like, do you guys think this is an improvement on the main event? Because we've all have our opinions on Amir Albazi, but no, I'm with you. I don't either.
No, I like losing him. I like watching him lose like important fights too.
But he doesn't. The judges come in and he wins those fights.
Yeah, that is true.
Wins.
In all seriousness, for Albazi, I do kind of like his grappling. I at least like respect it to a level. And I think the Tyra matchup was like an interesting one and kind of gave both those guys an opportunity to show something. Now it's more like if Tyra doesn't go out there and run through this guy, like we're gonna have to have some really weird conversations about how good Tyra is, how good is this Park guy, and this Hyun-Sung Park. I don't think he's a bad fighter by any means. But I don't look at him as like, oh, this guy's a world-class prospect. I think he's got positive skills, but this isn't Josh Van jumping up to fight Brandon Royval. He's taken a really big step up in competition, and so was Van, but Van had more fights against quality fighters, experienced fighters. Park doesn't really have those things. So I'm a decently amount less intrigued in this matchup. And out of all the random flyweights out there that I think are cool prospects, Park isn't really at the top of my list. Andre Lima, for example, even though he pulled out, so it obviously wasn't a reality. If you would have let me pick like a week ago, would you rather see Park fight Tyra or Andre Lima? I would have picked Lima just to show the level of prospect that I find Park to be at.
Yeah, I mean, Park, I'm curious to see because he does finish people, but this is such a big jump up. He had one decision, that was his first fight. Then he finished everybody since then, and I think it's 9 fights in a row with a finish. Half of them coming in the first round, but this is a big step up for him. And if Tyra doesn't win this comfortably, like you said, James, you're going to have real thoughts about him and what's next for him.
I was just looking real quick. I wanted to see Lima's last couple of fights. Is he the one that got bit too?
Yes.
Was that in his debut?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because
I remember
that was a wild story because I watched him on Contenders that he was really, really good, and then he got bit, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is the guy who got bit," and I was like, "I swear, this guy's really good. He didn't just get bit; he's actually good fighter."
Yeah, then didn't he get the bite tattooed on him after?
I think
that's
so.
weird.
Yeah.
That's really.
Now you're not helping your case as being known as the guy who got bit when you get it tattooed on you.
That is true. So looking at some of these fights, I completely agree with the 3 that you guys picked out. Theme there: 2 lightweights and a featherweight, and 2 Argentinian boxers. We've got 3 Argentinian boxers. One of them's too dumb to realize he has to fight at lightweight and not welterweight. And until that changes, Francisco Prado is going to be a little bit lower on the prospect list. But these Argentinian boxers are all pretty good at actually boxing. Throw good combinations, head, body, and they're all dogs with power and fight really hard. And I think Ribovic has obviously had the most success, but Vallejos, he's undefeated, and his only loss is because he was on Contender Series fighting Gene Silva, and he was beating up Gene Silva so bad he gassed out, and Gene Silva won because Gene Silva didn't gas out. It's like he went to war with Gene Silva, and I remember watching that fight, and I was like, this guy's better. He just gassed out.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he bounced back, got some other – I don't remember if he got more regionals wins, but he came back on Contenders the following year, knocked somebody out, knocked out a guy in his UFC debut. Now he's in here with Danny Silva, and Danny Silva, undefeated in the UFC. I think he's 2-0 2-0. Not the best prospect out there, but I'm going to have eyes on Vallejos, and he was my number 1 ranked guy from last season of Contenders out of the 40 some odd guys they signed last year. So I really like Vallejos a lot. And part of that is getting a little bit of retrospect because got 2 fights with him and got to see one of the guys he fought turned out to be really good. So you kind of have a better idea of where he's at in comparison to some of these other guys. For example, he fought Gene Silva better than Drew Dober, by miles, and it's not even debatable. So I've got a lot of high hopes for him, and I also like Ribovic as a prospect, and that's going to be a good fight. So those are definitely some that I'm looking forward to. Another guy I really like as a prospect is Rinya Nakamura. He is coming off the worst performance of his career in his last fight. So, hey, let's not continue that trend. Let's go finally finish a fight and show some improving skills. I would love to see that from him. I also like the Rodolfo Vieira versus Trayshawn Gore. I just kind of like to watch Vieira because he's so good at jiu-jitsu. Really isn't much to it outside of that, but it's another guy I look at as more than a random prelim guy, if that makes sense. Usually, he's a random main card guy with some really good skills, so not a bad prelim there. So,
yeah, I just want to bounce back on Vallejos. He's only 23.
Yeah.
So he's not even into his prime yet. So hopefully that's another featherweight prospect coming up the way soon.
Yep. All right. Let's move over to our one piece of fight news. We have Carlos Ulberg taking on Dominick Reyes. The absolute rise of Dominick Reyes, and I don't know if this is a number 1 contenders fight, but it might be.
Feels like it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
It does.
And I couldn't be more happier. Well, I couldn't be more happier or extremely enraged by the result of this fight, depending on which way it goes.
Yeah, I'm not completely convinced that it's a number 1 contender, but I would like someone else to. I'd like someone to ask Dana. Hey, Dana, is the winner of this fighting for a title? Because I mean, I guess you've got Khalil Rountree and Yuri Prochazka, but someone's got to fight after that, and I feel like the winner of this is putting themselves in a pretty good position. Anthony, you can lead us off on this one. What do you make of Dominick Reyes getting in there against Carlos Ulberg?
I've been a huge fan of the Reyes redemption arc, and I've been calling for it. I didn't think it would be going this smoothly, but then again, I did just check who is this revenge or the redemption arc against, and it's Dustin Jacoby, Anthony Smith, and Nikita Krylov, who we just saw get knocked out again. So but still, we'll put that besides that's besides the point. He's on a 3-fight win streak, and Carlos Ulberg, I am not the biggest fan of. I do think he's a talented fighter. I get it. I think he's incredibly boring. I think for his size and stuff, he got lucky. Was it when he knocked out Menefield or someone on a late replacement? And if he'll just walked at him with his chin in front of, like, high in the air and just, like, walked at him. And so then he got the knockout. But other than that, yeah, I do think Ulberg is nearing a title shot with the wins he's stacking together, and I do think Reyes on the redemption arc is pretty good, and this is a huge step up too for him in that way. Just speaking on his opponents not being that highly, so I think the fight makes sense in a sense, and I would be interested. Both can be true. I think Reyes can. If he can knock out Ulberg or whatever, that would definitely be a statement win for finishes in a row, I believe. And then for Ulberg, for someone that may be struggling with getting knockouts at times and such, we'll see. You never know. We did see Reyes before on this Tony Ferguson type run, except the reverse of it. We did see him, get knocked out 3 times in a row. So I'm sure there's still always those chin concerns, even though he's 3 fights removed from that.
Yeah, this fight's. I think it's going to be fun, and I'll also knock on wood it actually happens because this is the 3rd time they've booked this fight, and we're over 2 so far. So there's that aspect of it, and we still have time because when is this fight? Is this?
Let me check on the date, but this will headline UFC Perth, so it is quite a bit down the line, September 27th.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, there's still plenty of time for who knows what might happen, but I think it's a fun fight. And realistically, I like you kind of alluded to earlier, James, the winner of this should not be next in line, but in line next after that. Unless Pereira does come out and beats Ankalaev, then do we really want to see a Khalil Roundtree and Pereira fight again? Or do we want to see a Yuri Prochazka and Alex Pereira fight again? We've seen how those have gone 3 times total in between the two. So don't know if I need to see that again. And maybe then if Ulberg wins, he can kind of skip the line, or likewise with Reyes, because who wouldn't want to see Dominick Reyes fight for the belt again?
Yeah. We'll see. See if he gets robbed again. No, I'm just kidding too.
But yeah,
I will say it's a pretty good point that if you're Ulberg or Reyes, you should really be rooting for Pereira.
Yes.
Because like you said, you just threw out some fights at me that I do not want to see. I don't need to see Pereira Magomed for a 3rd time. I don't need to see Pereira Yuri for a 3rd time. And I don't need to see Pereira Roundtree for a 2nd time. For some reason, a lot of people love that Roundtree fight, but that turned into like a beating really quickly. And really wasn't much more than that. But if you really like Pereira, I understand why you'd want him to fight Roundtree again. You dodge a couple overhands and you start digging to the body. Next thing you know, you're beating the guy half to death. I mean, it's a pretty good matchup for Pereira. But it's not like Reyes and Ulberg are going to go out there and try and grapple Pereira. So, like, if you're a believer that Pereira is the best striker in the world, like, those are both 2 matchups you should probably be looking at, really with some excitement. But yeah, I think that this is a logical matchup, and I mean, at some point you got to throw Reyes to the wolves. I mean, you can't keep giving him guys that you can look at and go, how much do I care about that win? Like, I don't know how much I care about the Nikita Krylov win, but we can fix that by giving him Carlos Ulberg, and if he beats Ulberg, like, we're not going to be having as big of a question. There's ways that you could have questions, like what happens if Ulberg goes out there and doesn't fight? Like, there's some ways you could really that one could really confuse you, but the opportunity is there, and we can work from there. But I think that a Reyes title shot, he could probably shortcut it a little bit just by way of what he has done in the past and how excited fans are to see him kind of return to that level. So it's definitely high stakes there.
They did arguably give him, like, and I wouldn't say it wasn't like a complete cupcake in the sense of like how like Sean O'Malley got the huge jump or didn't have to win and stuff like that, but they did truly give him like essentially the most winnable fights while still working his way up like the rankings too. So, but then again, he's been capitalizing on all of it. So
yeah, and he could have, like you said, he's been capitalizing, and he could have lost those fights.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and when he fought Krylov, like, who knew that Krylov was then going to get knocked out and then proceed to get knocked out again?
Oh, I agree.
Like, there's some red
Yeah.
flags with his injuries where you could have saw that, but like the ball has rolled a little bit further on Krylov than I think was intended when that matchup was booked. So, all right, let's get into our matchmaking portion. Go
I
ahead.
do have
Jack.
one other fight that I've just seen reports about today. Not 100% if it's signed or not, but it's one that I just kind of want to run by you because we did talk a bit of the UFC Paris card with Imavov and Baralo. There's rumors that the co-main is going to be Benoit Saint Denis and Mauricio Ruffy.
I like it.
I do too.
Yeah,
I would
vote with
co-sign
it.
on that.
So just wanted to see what your guys' opinions were on that.
I like that just because we've been talking about Benoit Saint Denis not having, being at the level people thought he was. Ruffy's got a lot of hype. I think that's a pretty good opportunity for both guys. For Ruffy, climb the rankings against a guy who was once hype. For Saint Denis, like beating a guy who's got that much hype, feels like they're both would have some room to benefit there. Makes sense.
I agree for both ways you just explained it, and then more because I think it's a good leaning the catapult side for the Ruffy side over the VSD because I do not have faith in that man. But nevertheless,
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll just be a fun fight.
I think it would be exciting. As
I
well.
think those guys in Paris as well would be a good time.
Yeah. All right. Swinging over to our matchmaking portion of the show. This is pretty straightforward. We're gonna go division by division. We'll start at 125, work our way up, talk about fights we would like to see. I don't really want to add rules to this, to be honest. So the full creative floor as to fights that you would like to see. I'm going to start us off at 125, and I'm going to steal the best one on the board, Kai France versus Manel Kopp. Shameless by me, but I think that is a tremendous fight of two strikers, and I think that's exciting. I think the buildup would be exciting, and I don't think there's a better time than there's been great times previously to book that fight. Right now is a great time. We can also book that fight and try again. So I'm going to lead us off with Manel Kopp and Kai France.
I mean, shit, yeah. You took the best one on the board, and that was going to be mine as well. Or really anything with Manel Kopp fighting against one of these top guys would be fun. Otherwise, one that I doubt will ever happen just because of what Muhammad Makayev has done and how the UFC and him are in relations, but him coming back and fighting one of the Brandons or even an Amir Albazi, I would love to see that, but I just don't know how realistic it is that he actually comes back. Even though he has won since leaving the UFC, he got a first-round submission and then a decision win at bantamweight, and the first fight was at catchweight, so maybe him coming back to flyweight would be entertaining. I highly doubt that ever happens, but that's the fun of this.
I don't know. I'm trying to go. I don't know how biased I want to be too. If we're really faking these fights, because I've still always wanted to see that Brandon Moreno-Pantoja fight again. Just because I think Moreno had the best chance, besides this Van fight that I'm obviously extremely hyped for. But like Kai Kara, some of the other matchups, I pretty confidently had Pantoja. And I still think that Moreno to lose his belt in, I believe, a split decision where he breaks his hand in the second. I've always wanted that fight ran back. And I know Moreno slipped a couple times, losing like the fight right before he could maybe get that shot back. And then before he ages out too. But for how untouchable Pantoja seems after this Van fight too, we'll see. That was just the one fight that I always think, given another night with circumstances not playing out that way, I wonder what would have changed or what things would have been different.
Mm.
But
all right, I'll tell you what. UFC matchmakers, watch your backs. We're coming for you. Bantamweight, I will go last this time. Anthony, you went last time, so we can throw you out there first. If you're ready, you did just go. So Anthony, you can lead us off here. If not, delegate to Jerry to go first.
It's tough because they're making my favorite fight right now with the Marav Sanhagen, which I guess I'll cheat maybe a little bit and do that. Just because we've been calling for that fight though for I don't know about a year now, but for some time.
Oh,
So now that it's just funny that it finally happened. So, but normally that was always my pick.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's going to be a very fun fight. I want the rematch though. I want Petr Yan and Sean O'Malley. Run it back. Yan was robbed the first time around. O'Malley's doing what O'Malley does and kind of God knows what he's doing. But I don't really care about seeing Umar fight. Song Yadong against one of those guys would be fun, but I want to see Petr Yan and Sean O'Malley because first fight was fun. I just think the judges kind of pulled the UFC card.
Yeah, a lot of fun fights you can make with Sean, and that's kind of the direction I was looking. We got to see Sandhagen and Merab go through the hoop first, but depending on how that goes, Sandhagen O'Malley is a good option. Also, O'Malley versus Song Yadong, I think, is a fun fight that may not be the one that everyone is looking at, but I think that's could be a really fun striking matchup. I respect both those guys on the feet. I'll also quickly shout out, I do actually really like the Umar versus Mario Bautista booking. I think that's kind of a tough matchup for both of those guys, and I'm interested to see how that transpires. I would not have picked that to be the one matchup. If I had the ball in my court, a matchup I could make, I would have gone other routes, but I will shout it out while we're here talking about bantamweight a little bit. I do like that matchup over 5 rounds. I want to see that 5 rounds. No interest in that for 3 rounds. 5 rounds. I like that fight.
Is that fight booked?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw memes of that fight booking is a historical figure that represented Germany versus a historical figure that represented Russia. And I was like, yeah, that's like two people's least favorite, or not least favorite, but just the way they get their wins and stuff and have beaten fan favorites. And I was like, that just sums it up a little bit.
Yeah. Part of the reason I like it because I think it's funny.
Yeah.
I will say everyone else can sit on their high horse, but every once in a while, give me a funny one. I'll gladly take a matchup like that I can find some humor in that. I think we're all on the board on that, with especially after our Anthony Smith journeys. But
yeah, we need to find a new one
more on the stuck up side.
Yes, we need to find someone to replace Anthony Smith on this show.
Yeah, but we're searching.
Yeah,
we're searching.
Josh Van's getting close to the show's favorite fighter.
Yeah.
Except he's good though.
Yeah, exactly. That's the issue. That's the issue. Yeah.
All right, let's go down to featherweight, or up to featherweight, excuse me. Jerry, your turn to go first here. Featherweight matchup that you want to see.
I think this is kind of cheating a bit, but Volkanovski and Movsar Evloev. I think that's the best fight you can make. I don't understand. I didn't dislike the Evloev and Aaron Pico fight, but I just don't know what Pico's level is in this division and how meaningful that fight could be for Evloev, considering what we saw Patricio Pitbull doing his first time out and some of the other guys coming over from Bellator. So I think there's nothing else Movsar can do. Give him the title fight with Volk. Why not?
That I think that's perfectly fine, because the fight that I wanted was Lopez Yair, that I thought they had lined up pretty solidly, especially with the whole press conference and everything. And I thought it could have rolled right into one. I know Lopez is booked against Silva, which I'm also not going to complain at, but I really think that, I guess, too, depending on how you feel about Yair and Lopez, that fight should technically still be on the table too, depending on how, who wins and who loses. So I would like to see that, though. I think that would be a whole fun one from the press conference to actually inside the octagon.
Yeah, this is one that I've been calling for a lot. Yair Rodriguez versus Arnold Allen. This one has been teased a few times. I don't know if it's been real reports or if it's been people guessing that they could potentially make this fight and reporting it, trying to guess correctly. But I think this is a great fight where if you put this as like a main event of a card of a fight night, I'm absolutely thrilled for it. I think this is one that can be massively entertaining. And this is more purely based on what could happen if we book these guys and the fight that we could get. So that's one that I've been wanting, and gonna continue to be there until that one goes through. Once again, now feels like a great time for that one, considering both guys are unbooked and a lot of the names around them booked. So let's try and get that one across the board. All right. To lightweight we go. I believe it is my turn to lead us off.
Mm-hmm.
And in the lightweight division, you've got a good amount of options here. And I will say I'm going to go Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. Little indecisive here, but I think this one is one that makes logical sense. And I think that it's a good way to get two guys fights who are from a similar era. That feels like one that we need to see, even if they're both a little bit past their prime. Charles rebounding from that KO loss. I don't know how that fight would go. I don't think that fight would be like if you were to make that fight across any point in time. I don't think 2025 or early 2026 is the point in time that you get your best outcome from an entertainment perspective. But I think right now we should make that one before I think in a year we might lose that one. So I think we should make that now while we have the chance. Anthony, you can take it away and go second.
I'll let Jerry go first because I can go either way with.
Yeah, I've got a couple as well. So do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
You can go.
All right. One I want to see because we were meant to have it. I think it was was it early this year or was it early last year? But Justin Gaethje and Dan Hooker. I just think that would be such a scrap. It would be so entertaining, and two guys that are just going to go and try and kill each other. Both with smiles on their faces as the punches get thrown. I think that would just be a very entertaining fight. And it's honestly kind of relatively important in the division, considering like we'll see what happens with Armin fighting for the belt. Obviously, Islam's moving up. Then if we do get Max and Charles Oliveira, why not? But I'd rather see Gaethje fight a guy like Dan Hooker than Paddy Pimblett, honestly.
Yeah, I was gonna maybe do a Justin Gaethje pivot, but so if not, it was Ilya versus anybody really. Armin was the top choice. This is the fight I'd want to see because I still think Paddy can win one more, and that Paddy Ilya fight would be even more hype.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if I was waiting to see if you went somewhere with Ilya first, but Ilya Armin and then Ilya Paddy as well. So Ilya versus anyone really outside of those, the Max and a Gaethje fight. So
yeah, one last quick one I'll throw out there. Dan Hooker versus Rafael Fiziev, I think is another fun one. And I'm not Fiziev's got Gaethje twice, obviously, but I think he's a fun guy to have in the kind of violence and fun fight era or realm of the division. So that's another one I like.
And that's part of what's fun about this lightweight division is it is just pure violence.
Mm-hmm.
Still has been for a long time and still is. So it's just so much fun.
Yep. 170 pounds. Jerry, where you can lead us off here. What stands out to you at 170?
This is a tough one because there's so many guys at the top that I want to see fight each other. Had Bilal still been the champion, I would have immediately said Shavkat Rakhmonov and Bilal. But really, I want to see Shavkat just get back in there. It could be Bilal. It could be Sean Brady. I just still think that he's probably the best fighter in this division. See how Islam works out in this division as well. But Shavkat versus anybody is kind of the fight I want to see. I just want to see him back in the octagon.
Yeah, that's tough. Sean, I would go there as well. Maybe a Ilya Islam in welterweight. No, I think outside of Shavkat, do we really want to see? Oh, I'll do a Michael Morales because I have been impressed with him. I understand he's definitely has some flaws and can get better, but I find the way he fights, really entertaining. I like it. So maybe a Michael Morales, Leon Edwards, for sure should be striking. Let's Leon, who could be a little bit washed, but I still think has some talent on the feet and could put together a fun back and forth fight there. That fight should be a fun on the feet striking with not like a one-way domination on the ground, which a lot of these wrestlers in this division can do in some of these matchups.
Okay. What the first idea I had was Leon versus any striker, and then I kind of narrowed it down in my head. And I also really like that Michael Morales fight, but I have multiple that I'm looking at here. So thank you for taking that off my hands. We have Islam versus JDM. That fight's gonna happen next. I think if Islam wins, Shavkat versus Islam is an absolute tremendous fight that I want to see. I want to see that Ilya fight too. But if you told me we can't make the Ilya fight because we got to do Islam versus Shavkat,
I'm understandable.
I'm not
like, hey, man, I
opposed.
get it. I get it. And there's like 15 more I could say, but another quick one I'll throw out there. This has already been booked once. Actually, this is already booked, so I'll just say I love this fight. Carlos Prates versus Jeff Neal. Forgot that was booked for UFC 319. Absolutely love that fight. So I'm pumped for that one. That's coming up in a couple weeks. So
I'll say
that's where my head's at welterweight.
The other one I want that I've been saying and wanting for a long time, purely because the hatred between England and Ireland, is Leon Edwards and Ian Gary. In England, in Ireland, just one of those two places, those two fighting, solely because what it's like you guys said, Leon Edwards versus any stand-up striker would be fun. But just the hatred that those two fan bases will have against each other will just be comical.
I agree.
I wouldn't mind watching both of them in the octagon again. So
welterweight is absolutely stacked right now. I will say that.
We could go through every single fighter in this division and be like, all right, here's who I want him to fight. And we could, Dana, give us a call. Let us book out the welterweight division.
D-Rod's at 13, though.
D-Rod, I can find. How about if Brian Battle wins at UFC 319, he can fight D-Rod and take his ranking.
I'm thinking D-Rod versus Bilal. No.
And then D-Rod wins again, too, at like 43 years old.
Yep.
D-Rod is in the discussion to take the Anthony Smith spot on the
show. That's a great shout. He actually might be.
Yeah, for the welterweight division, yeah. All right, middleweight. Anthony, you can lead us off here. What an interesting division. We've talked a little bit about this division. I think this one, maybe I'll change, but I think this one is probably my toughest. Just thinking about this ahead of time. Mm-hmm. One of the tougher ones to matchmake for at the moment.
Well, if not, I'm going to do a fluffy pick, but we kind of talked about it already. And my first one would be the Izzy Strickland because I wanted that rematch, or the Whitaker Strickland just because that fight's never happened. So those would be my two pick, and we talked about it earlier, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm honestly going to bounce off of that with you. I think Izzy Strickland or Whitaker Strickland. Otherwise, who's Fluffy Hernandez is scheduled to fight? So I'm playing. Oh, delete say.
Chalk up the W. Chalk up the W. Yeah. Who do you want him to fight after that?
Fluffy wins that, honestly, Fluffy and RDR. I think that would be.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Like it will test Fluffy Hernandez's skill because we already think he's pretty solid, and
I'm tired of him fighting like the top 10 and below. Like he hasn't got to jump up yet. It's like Pereira, Kopylov, Allen. Yeah. So I wouldn't be minding the step up.
He's slowly working his way up, and we've seen so many other guys, Sean Strickland especially, get that sudden go from you're fighting the guys in the lower half to suddenly you're fighting the number one contender, and then you get a title shot. So I wouldn't mind Fluffy Hernandez fighting a guy like RDR or someone else higher up.
That would be my absolute Super Bowl because Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, weak to the body. Maybe some body knees absolutely smoke him. Mm-hmm. Maybe he can't deal with the strength of RDR in the earlier rounds. But if he gets to round 3 and he starts working his grappling, and next thing you know, RDR is tired and Fluffy Hernandez is not scared of the grappling anymore, and he's just going for subs, it'd be a tremendous watch. So I do love that fight. This is probably not one that can be made right now, but man, give me Paulo Costa versus Khamzat Chimaev.
Yes.
I mean, that is just,
yep. That's
another fun one where rankings wise, it doesn't really make a ton of sense. But if Khamzat loses, I don't see a reason why we couldn't do this. No. Like, are you telling me there's a more entertaining matchup at middleweight in a build-up perspective than Paulo and Chimaev? You might not understand half of it, but I'm pretty certain it would be absolutely hilarious. So give me Paulo Costa and Hamzat Chimaev.
Especially after, wasn't it Paulo Costa recently in the last couple weeks came out and said like what Hamzat was texting his girlfriend at the time when the lead up to their fight initially, and that whole press conference would just be them yelling at each other, and whoever else is on that card, they're just going to sit back, eat some popcorn, kind of look around like what the hell is going on while these two go at it. Love that shout.
That would be a fun one. All right. Light heavyweight. Ooh, if the middleweight challenge wasn't big enough, I present you light heavyweight. Jerry, go ahead. Lead us off. Light heavyweight. What do you want to see?
God. Yeah. I really have no idea. Like, I mean, obviously we're getting Pereira and Ankalaev. After that, I really don't know. Maybe Zhang Ming Yang against a guy like Jamal Hill, assuming that somehow Johnny Walker doesn't beat Min Yang. And I know like Jamal Hill is a dog and one of the guys we really enjoy on this show, but seeing him go against the actual striker again, I think that could be a very fun fight.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick closer to the title picture, and this fight is not quite gonna work because of, like you mentioned, Jerry, they're booked up, but we haven't seen a Jiri Ankalaev, right?
No.
And I always think that fight could actually be kind of fun. So that would be my pick, and maybe we'll see how things work out with these title and title challenger implications. But I wouldn't be mad at that fight at all.
That's not a bad
is
one.
like doing calculus. This is why we see so many random shit fights at light heavyweight, because the people make the ranking, or the matchmakers, they look at this and they have this discussion and they go, just start calling people and see who will fight who and when they'll fight them. It's like, I don't really care if it makes sense. Just start making calls and see who we can get the octagon. I will go. First of all, I think Yuri versus Khalil Roundtree is a really good one, and probably would be one that would make a lot of sense here. I'm going to go with Alexander Rakic versus Bogdan Guskov. Rakic had a great UFC 300 performance, even though he lost from an entertainment perspective. I think if I were to rank fight of the night, I think that probably took second to Holloway and Gaethje. And I think Guskov has, been impressive enough to where he can move up the rankings. Like, I don't think he's been like, this guy's going to be a champ, but impressive enough to where that can be a fun fight. Quick note, Rakic is booked against Azamat Murzakanov for UFC 321. So he is booked, but sue me. I didn't know where else to go. So that's what I'm throwing out there.
That's what I said. That was tough because they took a lot of the best fights right now with what's booked. So
yeah, we've got the top 4 booked, plus 7's booked, 8's booked, 10 just fought, 11's booked, 13's booked, 14's booked. So about half of the division that's ranked is booked. And you certainly couldn't find an unranked fight because we've got 35 guys in the division. We rank almost half of them. And if you can't make it to the rankings, you're
Anthony Smith. No.
Yeah, odds are you suck. Yeah, should have picked Anthony Smith. Should have picked Anthony Smith.
On a retirement fight.
Yeah, coming out of retirement. All right. I believe it is my turn to go first, and boy, just does it get harder and harder. The heavyweight division. We've got Aspinall and Cyril gone. We've got Volkov versus Almeida. We've got Pavlich versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. They cut Jairzinho Rosenstruck, so I can't go the old trustworthy Derek Lewis versus Jairzinho Rosenstruck. So I am going to I don't even know.
It doesn't get easier. It's gotten harder and harder as it's gone on.
Yeah. How about Talison Teixeira versus Tai Tuivasa? Assuming Tai Tuivasa is still an active fighter. No commentary because I just picked two guys who swang and bang. There's the commentary. Swang and bang. 3 words.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they've, like you said, you were listening on the fights book. They've picked everyone I actually care about in this division. So, I had 2 quick ones, and that would be a Derek Lewis title shot, just to see, because they haven't fought each other yet, and I think people would like to see Derek Lewis fight in a title shot, and I'd like to watch Aspinall beat Derek Lewis and put another name on his record. The other one, I will say, going with your thing, and then you went to Shara. I'll go Kuniev, who I actually looked impressive to me against Curtis Blades for my low bar of heavyweights. And you could do Kuniev versus like a Marcin Tybura or even a Spivak. But let's get him up there again and get him. I want to see him for how good he looked to me in that fight. Let's run it back and see if that's a thing he can, keep consistent, or it was maybe he just looked good that one night.
I like that.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go as far as to say I like Kuniev, but I think he's good. I thought he beat Curtis Blades. So, makes you better than a lot of guys in the weight class pretty automatically.
It is the lowest bar.
Yeah.
And that's why, because I agree with you, I think Kuniev did beat Curtis Blades. That's why my pick, run it back. Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis. Oh, why not? Let's see if Curtis Blades can get revenge for that highlight reel knockout that he suffered.
He was winning too.
Yeah. Uppercut from hell.
I think it goes worse for Curtis. Curtis
really
continues every time he fights. He grapples less and less. And if you're going to grapple less than you did the last time out, well, it's been years. And I kind of think he gets knocked out again. I don't know if I'm crazy, but.
No, I weirdly, because as Jerry said that too, I had Blades in that fight. And I think Lewis is as washed as someone with his specific fight style can be. But as Jerry said that, I think Lewis knocks him out again too, maybe. That scares me, especially if it's a 5-round or something. I guess that wouldn't matter, but because Lewis will die in there eventually with cardio. But I just think, Blades in there for 15 minutes, there's a chance he gets touched.
Yeah. And he doesn't have the greatest chin. He'll get hit and fall down. He's no stranger to it. So, all right.
Yeah. I mean, oh no, I thought I had something else to say, but brain blanked. Oh, it was Derek Lewis. As long as he comes out with a flying knee against somebody, he's invincible.
Yeah.
That is true. He realized that instead of fighting technically, he can just send it.
Yeah. And you look at that, how Curtis Blades fought. Was it Curtis Blades who fought Teixeira, or who fought Teixeira most recently? Oh, it was Derek Lewis.
Derek Lewis.
The last fight. Yeah, that's right. Wait, who was the one who Derek Lewis did the flying knee against? DeLima. That's right. Yeah. Patrol.
Hey, good. Derek Lewis is winning fights against these bums, so
yeah,
credit to him.
Long live Derek
All right,
Lewis.
if it doesn't get harder, we're gonna hit the women's, and the viewer retention will probably fall to 0. But we're gonna, out of respect,
unironically, I thought we were only doing the men's. I got work at 2, so I am gonna have to skip out. But
fair enough.
It's not that I hate women's MMA, but
Anthony hates women's MMA.
You heard it here first.
He's gonna go to work instead. So,
alrighty then, I'll see y'all.
See ya.
All right.
It doesn't get easier.
It does not get easier one bit. And I think doing just the men would have probably been the best idea on the board. But
we've committed. You already brought it up. We've committed to it now.
Yeah, we've committed. So Jerry, take the wheel on women's strawweight and tell us who should fight who.
I mean, I think the obvious one is Zhang Weili and Virna Jandiroba. But otherwise, maybe Tabitha Ritchie after her fight against an Amanda Lemos or Jessica Andrade. Or actually, for fighting reasons only, Tabitha Ritchie and Mackenzie Dern.
Fighting reasons only, the classic.
Indeed.
Good Give me Jillian Robertson versus Yan Xiaonan. Shameless because Yan Xiaonan can't grapple and Jillian Robertson can. And once again, I think that'd be funny to watch that grappling dynamic happen. And people would be like, oh, I don't know, Yan, she's been getting better. It's like, yeah, she's been getting better, but I watched her put herself in an armbar once. So, like, we're going from really shit to, like, bad. So, yes, she's better, but she's still bad. So, I think that'd be funny. And out of my own enjoyment, I'd like that. I'd like to take, like, Robertson inside the distance, Robertson sub. So, selfish, but I'll take Jillian Robertson versus Yan Xiaonan.
Yeah. All right, I'll let you kick off women's flyweight.
Oh, well, how nice of you. And this is actually
the easier one.
Yeah, this is the easier one, and then you're going to get to lead off women's bantamweight. So you played your cards quite poorly, my friend.
Indeed, I did.
Valentina Shevchenko versus Natalia Silva. I won't steal that. I think we talked about that when we were booking champions, but I'll just say that's like definitely number one. Outside of that, how about Alexa Grasso versus? Let's do Alexa Grasso versus Erin Blanchfield, just because I wanted them to fight when Grasso is champ, and we can have them fight now. So.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I was thinking Alexa Grasso, but I'm thinking now like Jasmine Judavicius and maybe Manon Fior. Judavicius has been on a hot streak as of late. Fior just lost in the title fight. So, and that one's actually booked, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, there you go. I was going to
say, you are in luck, my friend.
Well, otherwise, the winner of that against Macy Barber, the winner of that against Alexa Grasso, something like that.
Well, I'll tell you what. Jerry's clearly smart enough to be a UFC matchmaker, so
but not smart enough to know what fights are actually coming up.
But hey, you're smart enough to be a UFC matchmaker, which means we're going to see how you tackle the women's bantamweight challenge. Women's bantamweight, lead us off. Who do you want to see fight?
Miesha Tate. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, the one I'm not gonna. This isn't gonna be mine, but like obviously Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes would be fun. But the other one I want to see, just because the Venezuelan vixen has talked so much shit for the last decade, it feels like. Amanda Nunes, come back and put her in her place, send her to retirement, give me that fight, solely because I know it's going to be so one-sided, and then we can finally see off Juliana Pena.
Give me Juliana Pena versus Norma Dumont, because Norma Dumont, nobody knows who Norma is, and Norma will beat her, and then Juliana Pena will be embarrassed, which might be
even better.
Might be even better. And the return of Amanda Nunes has absolutely ruined my Norma Dumont to be the UFC champion at the end of the 2025 pick that we did at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
It absolutely spoiled my plans, but I don't even like Norma Dumont that much. I have just latched myself to the Norma Dumont hype train after picking her to be champion purely on a whim, because we'll just say she has a base that would make it hard to be taken down by Kayla Harrison. And I'm interested to see if my theory would be proven correct or incorrect.
Oh, I bet she runs through Raquel Pennington. Well, that's going to be bad when those two fight.
Norma? Or who?
Yeah, Norma Dumont. Yeah, for UFC Noche.
Let's go. We're one step at a time. Norma Dumont will be earning a UFC title.
Hey, she wins that pretty easy, and Amanda Nunes doesn't come back. December, November time, Nora Dumont for a title shot.
Yeah. Don't say I told you so, but I did.
You called it.
All right. Thank you to everyone for tuning into the show. And if you're here, that means you stuck through light heavyweight, heavyweight, and 3 women's weight classes. So you are a trooper and clearly one of the biggest fans of the show, which means you should like, subscribe, do all of that. And we will be back next week. I teased it at the beginning of the show, but we may have a similar approach to next week's show where we do some quick recaps, take up about half the show maybe, and then do a similar activity at the end where we make some picks. This time we're picking fights. Next time might have something else up our sleeves, but I'm not going to throw it out there until we do it, because who knows? Maybe they book Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler for the White House next week, and we got to talk about that. As much as that won't happen, point being, if there's news, we'll talk about news. Until then,
you did bring it up briefly before you finish. Like you did bring up before the show, Conor McGregor's back in the testing pool.
He is back in the testing pool. We didn't make that a large portion of today's show
because it's Conor and he's been back in the testing pool many times before and still hasn't fought.
Yeah. Yep. And he posted a picture of himself with the guy from USADA, and he had a weird mohawk. So just a note for people.
That's my president of Ireland.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Until next week, head over to vendettasportsmedia.com. We'll have a full preview up for this week's fights. Last week, no best bets because there were no best bets except for the +18 Tabitha Ricci KO that I took and did not share with anybody because I didn't actually think it would hit at the rate it did. Anyways, tune into that, and we'll catch you next week.